The veil between our world and the next is thin, a fragile curtain that can be pulled back with a whisper. Some say those on the other side try to reach us, sending messages through the dark. Tonight we delve into 3 chilling tales of those who received letters from beyond the grave. These aren't your typical messages. These letters drip with dread, each word a cold breath on the back of your neck. These are 3 letters from the afterlife, supernatural messages from the dead. Prepare yourselves, because once you hear these stories, you'll never look at your mailbox the same way again. It started innocently enough. An old, yellowed envelope arrived for a man named Edward. The return address simply an empty space on the faded paper. The envelope itself seemed to carry an air of mystery, as if it had traveled through time to reach him. Inside, a letter, the script elegant and flowing, like something out of a bygone era. The ink, though faded, still held a certain grace, each stroke meticulously crafted. It claimed to be from his great-aunt Eleanor, who he'd never met, informing him she'd left him her seaside cottage in her will. The photograph enclosed showed a quaint, picturesque cottage, its charm undeniable even in the faded image. Edward, skeptical yet intrigued, decided to investigate. The idea of a mysterious inheritance was too compelling to ignore, and he found himself drawn to the adventure it promised. The cottage was real, just as the letter described, a quaint little thing perched on a windswept cliff overlooking the ocean. The waves crashed against the rocks below, creating a symphony of nature that was both beautiful and haunting. He decided to stay the night, the salt air and the crash of the waves strangely calming. The serenity of the place was almost hypnotic, lulling him into a sense of peace he hadn't felt in years. But as darkness fell, the cottage creaked and groaned around him. The once charming noises of the house now seemed ominous, each creak a whisper of secrets long buried. He found himself drawn to the attic, a chill settling over him as he pushed open the old wooden door. The air grew colder, and the sense of unease deepened with each step he took. Dust motes danced in the single beam of moonlight filtering through a grimy window. The light seemed to highlight the age and neglect of the attic, casting eerie shadows that played tricks on his mind. And there, on a dusty table, a stack of letters, all addressed in that same flowing script. Each letter seemed to hold a piece of a puzzle, a story waiting to be uncovered. He reached for the one on top, his fingers trembling. The anticipation was almost unbearable, his heart pounding in his chest as he unfolded the delicate paper. As he read, his blood ran cold. The words on the page seemed to come alive, painting a picture of fear and despair that gripped his very soul. It was dated the day after his great-aunt Eleanor's death. The timing was impossible, yet there it was, staring back at him in black and white, and it was addressed to him. The letter spoke directly to his fears, as if the writer knew him intimately, knew the doubts and questions swirling in his mind. The letter spoke of a darkness that clung to the cottage, a malevolent presence that refused to let go. It warned of dangers unseen, of shadows that moved on their own, and of whispers that echoed in the night. It begged him to leave, to never return. The urgency in the words was palpable, a desperate plea from beyond the grave. But the most terrifying part? The handwriting was identical to the one he'd received just days before. The realization hit him like a tidal wave, leaving him breathless and filled with dread. Edward stood there, the weight of the letters heavy in his hands, the storm outside mirroring the turmoil within him. He knew he had to make a choice, to heed the warning or face whatever darkness awaited him in the shadows of the cottage. With a sense of urgency, he began to pack his bags, the decision to leave becoming clearer with each passing moment. The cottage, once a symbol of mystery and adventure, now felt like a trap, a place he needed to escape from. As he drove away, the headlights cutting through the night, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. that the cottage's malevolent presence was still with him, lurking in the shadows, waiting for another chance to ensnare him. The cottage stood empty once more, the waves crashing against the cliff, a silent witness to the secrets it held. And somewhere in the darkness, the malevolent presence waited, biding its time, ready to reach out to the next unsuspecting soul. Sarah had always been close to her grandmother, sharing a bond that transcended the physical world. They spent countless hours together talking about life, love, and the mysteries of the universe. Her grandmother often spoke of dreams and premonitions, things that Sarah found fascinating but never took too seriously. So when her grandmother passed away peacefully in her sleep, Sarah was heartbroken but found solace in their cherished memories. She remembered the stories, the laughter, and the warmth of her grandmother's embrace. It was a comfort, a way to keep her spirit alive in Sarah's heart. A few weeks later, a letter arrived, addressed to Sarah in her grandmother's shaky handwriting. It was unexpected, almost surreal. Sarah's hands trembled as she held the envelope, the familiar handwriting bringing a rush of emotions. Confused, Sarah carefully opened the envelope, her heart pounding in her chest. She unfolded the letter, her eyes scanning the page with a mix of anticipation and dread. The letter was short, filled with rambling, nonsensical sentences. It was as if her grandmother had written it in a state of delirium. The words were jumbled, the sentences fragmented, but there was an urgency in the writing that Sarah couldn't ignore. But one sentence stood out, clear and chilling. "Beware the man with the emerald eyes, for he walks in the shadow of death." The words sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. It was a warning, a message from beyond the grave. Sarah brushed it off as grief playing tricks on her mind, but the warning echoed in her thoughts. She tried to rationalize it, telling herself it was just a coincidence, a figment of her imagination. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to it. Days later, while walking home from work, she noticed a man with piercing green eyes watching her from across the street. He was there, just standing, his gaze fixed on her. It was unsettling, a stark reminder of her grandmother's warning. He was tall and imposing, his face half shrouded in the shadows of a wide-brimmed hat. There was something menacing about him, something that made Sarah's skin crawl. She felt exposed, vulnerable, as if he could see right through her. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through Sarah's composure. She felt a primal urge to run, to escape the gaze of those emerald eyes. Her heart raced, her breath quickened, and she knew she had to get away. She quickened her pace, her heart pounding against her ribs. The man followed. She could hear his footsteps, steady and relentless, echoing in the night. It was a chase, a game of cat and mouse, and Sarah was the prey. Night after night he appeared, always lurking in the periphery, his emerald eyes burning into her. It was as if he was haunting her, a specter from her grandmother's warning come to life. Sarah felt trapped, unable to escape his gaze. Sleep offered no escape, haunted by nightmares of those eyes, cold and merciless. She would wake up in a cold sweat, the image of the man with the emerald eyes seared into her mind. It was a torment, a relentless assault on her sanity. Sarah was living her grandmother's warning, trapped in a waking nightmare. The line between the world of the living and the dead blurring with every passing moment. She felt the weight of her grandmother's words, the gravity of the warning, and the inescapable reality of the man with the emerald eyes. Desperation clawed at her, a need to understand, to find a way to break free from the grip of fear. She began to research, diving into old books and records, searching for any clue that could explain the man with the emerald eyes. It was a quest for answers, a journey into the unknown. The more she learned, the more she realized that her grandmother's warning was not just a figment of imagination, it was real. A message from the other side, a plea to protect her from a danger that was all too real. Sarah knew she had to be vigilant, to heed the warning, and to find a way to confront the man with the emerald eyes before it was too late. Mark, a writer struggling with a bad case of writer's block, decided to rent a secluded cabin in the woods, hoping to find inspiration in the solitude. He had heard that the quiet and isolation could work wonders for creativity, and he was desperate to try anything to get his words flowing again. The cabin, though charming with its rustic decor and cozy fireplace, had an unsettling stillness about it. The silence was almost too perfect, as if the very air was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. One rainy afternoon, as the wind howled outside and raindrops pelted the windows, a letter slipped through the mail slot, landing on the worn floorboards with a soft thud. The sound was almost imperceptible, yet it echoed in the quiet cabin. It was addressed to the occupant, the handwriting jagged and rushed, as if the writer had been in a great hurry or under immense stress. The paper itself was old and yellowed, adding to the sense of mystery. Curiosity piqued, Mark broke the seal. The envelope felt strangely cold to the touch, sending a shiver up his spine. He unfolded the letter with trembling hands. The words, scrawled in a frantic hand, spoke of an unseen presence in the cabin, a malevolent entity that fed on fear. The letter warned that the entity thrived in the darkness, growing stronger with each passing night. Mark scoffed, dismissing it as a prank. He had heard of local legends and ghost stories, but he was a man of reason and logic. He crumpled the letter and tossed it aside, determined not to let it affect him. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows through the trees, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The forest seemed to close in around him, the trees whispering secrets he couldn't quite hear. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside the window sent shivers down his spine. The once comforting silence now felt oppressive, as if the cabin itself was alive and aware of his presence. Sleep became impossible, replaced by a gnawing unease that tightened its grip with each passing hour. He tossed and turned, his mind racing with thoughts of the letter and the unseen guest it spoke of. One night, he awoke to the sound of his typewriter clicking away. The rhythmic clacking of the keys was both familiar and terrifying, a sound that should have been comforting but now filled him with dread. He lay frozen in fear as he listened to the clacking keys, forming words he couldn't make out. The darkness seemed to press in around him, the air thick with tension. Slowly he crept towards the study, his heart pounding in his chest. Each step felt like an eternity, the hallway stretching out before him like a tunnel with no end. The air grew heavy, the scent of damp earth and something else, something cold and metallic filling his nostrils. It was a smell that spoke of decay and despair, a scent that seemed to cling to his very soul. He threw open the door, his blood turning to ice. The room was empty, but the typewriter sat in the center, a single sheet of paper protruding from the roller. The typewriter sat silent, a single sheet of paper protruding from the roller. The room was eerily still, the only sound the pounding of his own heart. On it, a message typed in the same frantic handwriting as the letter, "You're next." The words seemed to pulse with a life of their own, a chilling promise of what was to come. These letters, whispers from beyond the grave, serve as chilling reminders that some boundaries are not meant to be crossed. The afterlife, a realm shrouded in mystery and fear, may hold more than we can possibly comprehend. What happens when the veil lifts? What messages lie in wait, hidden in the shadows, waiting to be revealed? If you dare to delve deeper into the darkness, hit that like button and subscribe for more terrifying tales. And let me know in the comments, have you ever received a message from the other side?